One of the things that really strikes me, Kenneth, as I've spoken to job seekers over the years, because I used to run a job board business prior to Social Hire, I've always been struck by the fact that most people don't actually have much exposure to recruitment and therefore to how the recruitment process works until they actually get to a point in their lives where they need to find a new job themselves. And even then, their exposure to recruitment isn't, that in depth. They just sort of, encounter the little bits of recruitment that they happen to encounter. So with that in mind, can we help shed some light on the role that LinkedIn plays in recruitment today, and therefore what it's important to focus on as a candidate?
Well, first thing, just as from an observation standpoint, recruiters are sometimes caught in the middle by job specs that they get and updates that they get. So the important thing is to be very specific. When you go on LinkedIn and you find a job that's there, yes, you probably want to apply online, but it's really more about finding someone at the company, one of your first or second connections that can actually help push your candidacy up. That's a very big thing, and very few people think that way. Like if you get rejected from a job online that you applied to online, apply for the job anyway and reach out to someone, because you're dealing with the whole ATS automation thing, and it's very convoluted. So I think that's one major takeaway. The other thing to consider is that when you apply for a job, you may not have all the requirements there, but so what? If you have the main requirements, that's the most important thing. And that's where people like myself and you, Tony, and others, we can shed certain light that way, and it's based on our experiences. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with recruiters who said the same thing. And recruiters, the whole ghosting thing, it exists on both sides. My mindset is it's there. You have to either accept it or not, but move on and keep applying to jobs, because it doesn't do any good to get stuck in that rut, in my opinion.
Something I'd really like to pick up on there, Kenneth, you said that's so important is doing whatever you can to get yourself the job interview. What a lot of people don't get to see is that the single biggest drop-off in your chances of securing a job are you actually getting a job interview. So the huge numbers of people that apply to a job versus the numbers that actually get an interview, that's where most people lose out. And then once you're at interview, I mean, obviously at that point, it's not a done deal that you've got the job, but it's far fewer people that you're then competing against. And so anything that you can do, whether that's getting introduced by someone within the company or whether it's being smarter about how you apply, but if you really focus on doing what's needed to get a job interview, then I think that will, take your job search forward very considerably. The other thing that I would point out, Kenneth, and I'd be interested in your take on this, the importance of the keyword optimization of your profile, and that comes into play in two different ways. The first is that a lot of recruitment teams on LinkedIn are actually searching for people that they would want to interview, rather than necessarily just looking at applications they've received. And so you coming up as the potential match for the kinds of jobs you'd like to secure, is going to play a really big part in how many interviews you get. But also, when some of the jobs, when you apply online on LinkedIn, LinkedIn actually then score the applicants in order of, who looks like the applicant. And that is, taking your LinkedIn profile and cross-referencing it with the job ad and description and seeing how close a match there is. And so in both of those regards, whether you have the right keywords on your profile or not becomes a really big determinant of how successful you're likely to be in your job search. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really haven't seen the workings of that, and so don't appreciate the importance of it.
Well, I think one thing that I suggest a lot to people I work with is when you go on LinkedIn and you search for jobs, you do a search for jobs, you can break the search down by the experience level of the job. You can break it down even further by industry from all these different settings and things. And then you find a job, and I say this to my clients all the time, you're not applying for this job per se, but you're looking at the requirements of what is needed on the job, and do you have that on your profile? And it could be job specs, it could be skills. I said, just pretend, I'm going to call myself the recruiter. I'm looking for a mid-senior level position as a project manager in healthcare. And I can put in a salary range too. And I'm looking, here's a job. Do you have this on your profile, your resume? If not, why not? Because that's how you do a reverse search. And very few people do the searching on LinkedIn that way because it's not intuitive. It's a one-way conversation, and anyone can do that. And then you also can look at other people's profiles, why they show up on the first page. You'd be shocked. The About section it's a wonderful place to put core competencies and skills, bullet point of one right after the other. I say people do not read the About section, but it's searchable. And that's a very big aha moment. No one is reading it, but they're searching.
And just to give a really simple example of that, Kenneth, to help people on the call understand, let's say we're looking to recruit a social media manager. I might do a search on LinkedIn for social media managers, and there would be, 100,000 people would come up. But if I put in social media manager and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, because in our business I need you to have experience of those things, the number of people who still appear in those search results is tiny, because most social media managers haven't put anywhere on their profile that they actually use those other platforms and have experience with them. And you can take that simple example and apply it to any industry, and any important keywords you've got missing from your profile are just meaning you're not turning up in any recruiter's searches as soon as they start including that term in their search. And then if you say, right, in my industry, there could be 50 important keywords, that's 50 times that you're dropping out of search results that you should be appearing in. And I love your example of searching for a job to try and identify what some of those keywords would be.
And then you can do that again and again. Like if you don't put on there that you're available for hybrid and remote, another thing, you don't put that on there, you will not show up. And sometimes you start with a profile and you say to yourself, pretend you're a recruiter. You're looking for a job, and you get an aha moment. Because most people, resumes are very much chronological, and LinkedIn profiles are very chronological, and very few people look at them as two different tools. And I think the other thing which most people don't do enough of is the background image to market themselves. I can't tell you how many times I see the blank image, nothing there. A lot of times I don't see a picture, and it's not because the picture is not there. It's only because it's the first connections only by their settings. And there are so many things like this. But if you don't know, and if we don't point it out, you're just going to go on your merry way. And I think, Tony, you and I could have a chat like this for hours upon hours and this is not meant as a criticism or anything negative. It's about, this is the way to put your best foot forward and really, really, really stand out, because you can, but you want to make yourself marketable.
Just one last point on that keyword side of things, Kenneth. Something else I've discovered very few people know about is that LinkedIn will tell you some of the keywords that you're missing from your profile. If you use the build a resume function, which basically takes your LinkedIn profile and turns it into a resume, but when you go through that process, you tell LinkedIn what job title you're to getting in your next job move, and then it assesses your LinkedIn profile in relation to that job title. So for social media manager, it would say you have got these important keywords on your profile, but you're missing all of these important keywords if you're trying to get found for that job. So another really simple way of identifying some of the gaps to plug.